Hiya folks, and welcome to part 8 of my tutorial series all about how to play the ukulele in 10 easy steps. Yes, we're on number 8 already, so that would suggest there's another 7 there waiting for you on my YouTube channel should you wish to take a look there. Also, in the description there is a downloadable worksheet that will help you through this particular one. Now, I've been playing for many years now, and my ear continues to be trained, even like 50 years in. And I'm now at the stage where I can listen to a piece and work out what actual chords are being played. Now, you'd be surprised how much you can do as well, even if you've only been playing for a couple of years. I'm going to highlight some examples of things you do every day and perhaps don't even think about it. So I'm going to break it down into 3 sections. Now, initially what we're going to do is give some examples of major sounding chords, minors, diminished, major sevenths, minor sevenths, and probably a few more in between. And before long, you'll be able to pick out one from the other. In fact, we're going to have a little bit of a fun quiz as well. Now, as well as using our ears, we're also going to be talking about memory. So memory recall, so if somebody was to say to you, play a chord of F, you've probably played it 1,000 times and your fingers will just drop on. If you've got a more complicated chord, say using 3 or 4 fingers, then you might have to think a little bit. However, I'm going to show you 1 or 2 little tricks to help you with that. Finally, I'm going to put a lot of things together. So we're going to use the muscle memory, the recall memory. I'm going to be calling out a chord, or I'm going to actually play a chord, and I'm going to ask you to find out what chord I'm playing. So you need to know the type of chord, whether it's major or minor. You need to recognize by the sound of the strings that I'm going to be playing what the chord is. Then I want you to play it on your ukulele. And finally, I'm going to ask you not to even look at what you're doing. I want you to watch me and listen to me. Now, you might say to me, now listen, Peter, this is impossible. I have to look at my ukulele when I'm playing chords, especially if I'm concentrating on what I'm doing. However, what if you don't have the gift of sight? I've invited 2 very good friends of mine, Kerry and Alison. They belong to a group called UKULELES. What a fantastic name. Now, as I say, they don't have sight, so they still manage to play every chord that you could imagine. They do very complex arrangements, and they are absolutely fabulous in concert. If you ever get a chance to see UKULELES, check them out. So they've very kindly come along, and they're going to share with us how they manage to actually play the ukuleles without watching what they're doing. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So here we go. A lot of chords have got what I call anchor points, and these are very helpful when you're transitioning from one chord to another. Now, if you look on your sheet as well, it says on there F to G7. So if I'm playing a chord of F major and I want to get to G7, my anchor point is my index finger, because that remains where it is whilst I move these other 2 to the G7. So I've got F to G7. Now, sometimes when you're first starting to play the uke, you're tempted to do this. I'm putting on a chord of F, you take your hand off, and then you try and find G7. Well, won't be doing that. Not in this lesson anyway. So, the anchor point is the index finger. I'm going to G7. The next example, I've got a little chord sequence. Let me play it for you. So I've got from E minor 7th to diminished down at the bottom, to D minor, to G7, to C. Okay, so what was I doing there to make that easy? Well, as I mentioned before, you perhaps don't realise you're doing this, but you do it all the time. So if I'm playing the E minor 7th and I want to get to that diminished, all I have to do is slide that down. So I haven't taken my fingers off, I've literally just slid down from one chord to the other. Then D minor I've played quite a number of times, so I'm quite confident at finding that, because basically it's like an F with an extra finger on. Now again, I can use my index finger as an anchor point, because to get to G7 I just do that. And then finally, to get to C, I take everything off but what's on here and slide it up one. So without actually looking at my instrument, I can do that quite easily. Now I'm not cheating, I'm not looking at the screen, I'm actually playing this from memory now. This is the recall memory. Okay, so the sequence again. Okay, the sequence is written down if you want to have a look at it. So example 3 is G going to G7 to C major 7th to C minor, and then finally to G major 7th. Now that sounds a very complicated set of chords and changes, but let's break it down. Let's see how we can use our fingers logically. So the first chord was G. All I need to do is change this triangle around to get the G7. Now C major 7th is next, so if I remove fingers 1 and 2 and I'm just left there with my ring finger, the C major 7th, and then I'm going to do a mini bar up 1 fret from there, which is the C minor, and then the G major 7th. Okay, so I'm just going to play that sequence for you, just 4 strums on each. Join me if you like. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. There you go. So that is how to use your fingers, using a little bit of logic and hopefully making it easy in the transition. Now I try by putting graphics on the screen so you can see suggested fingers to put on a particular chord. However, what you've got to bear in mind, this isn't a golden rule, it's not set in stone. It all depends on the chord that you're coming from and the chord you're going to next as to which is the best fingers to use. So let's look at this sequence, example 2 on your sheet, and it goes from C to A minor plus a C. Well, you can reach over for that, a little bit of a struggle, but you can do it. But then the next chord is D minor 7th, which I've got to take everything off to do that. So that isn't really a good way to do it. So what if I changed my fingers? Okay, so what if I played the C with my pinky instead of the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret? So I've got this going on. Okay, that's easy for the C. I can reach across a lot easier now with the pinky in place and popping that one on there, the A minor. Now D minor, I can keep the C in place, I can keep that one in place and just add 2 more fingers. So I haven't taken my fingers off. Okay, that's clever, isn't it? Then we're going to just move that shape from there to there. So I've taken 1 finger off and slid 2 of these fingers just across the strings to get the G7. I'm just going to put an extra finger on here just to make a little bit of jazz. And then we're going to finish on C. So whenever you play C, generally speaking, you would use 3rd finger on the 3rd fret. I'm suggesting in this particular case that the pinky is a better option. So what I'm about to do is share with you various chord types. Now they all have a unique sound. They're in no particular order, but I may as well start with a major chord. Now it doesn't matter what the letter is before the major chord, whether it be F major, D major, C major. The fact is I'm just trying to put across the sound that a major chord makes. Okay, perhaps the most common major chord ever on a ukulele is C major, and probably the first chord you ever played. But let's forget it's a C major, we're just going to call it a major chord. Okay, so I could play another one here. Another one here. Another one. So that is our major chord sound. Now, in contrast to that, we have the minor chord, often referred to as a more sort of sad sort of chord. So again, doesn't matter what the name is, the fact is it's a minor chord. Have a listen. So it's quite unique, isn't it? It's sort of more sad, where the majors tend to be happy, if you like. Then we've got dominant sevenths. Now, these are often referred to as sevenths in ukulele communities, but the technical name is dominant seventh. So let me just play some dominant seventh examples for you. Okay, so that's our dominant seventh. Then we're going to go to major sevenths. Major sevenths have a unique sound, often used on the end of a piece. I can play one there, I can play one here, I can play one here. So they're kind of unique in their sound and quite easy after a while to pick out. Okay, another one here. Okay, so that's our major seventh. Now, minor sevenths. Now, I enjoy playing these. This is a minor, but a minor seventh sounds like this. It's just got a little bit more meat on the bones, hasn't it? Okay, if I was to play a D minor, and I was then to put this pinky on here, it becomes D minor seventh. So again, a nicer sounding chord, and it's unique. Okay. Now also we've got one that is what I call the suspense chord, which is our diminished chord, and we've looked at this I think just a couple of lessons ago. So it's got a very sort of suspense feel to it, especially if you do a tremolo sort of. Yeah, a unique sound and very easy to pinpoint in a piece of music because it just stands out like a sore thumb. Okay, next one is called a ninth. Now these will take a little bit of work and training of your ear to recognize them, but if I was to play a C7 for example, or dominant seventh, and I was to play a C9 instead, that would sound like, again, a little bit more meat on the bones as it were. If I was to play an F7, the F9 would sound like. So again, with a little bit of training, you're going to be able to pick those ones out as well. Finally, we're going to look at the augmented chord. Now, the augmented is a chord that takes you somewhere, okay? So, for example, if I was going to go back to C, I could do this particular one here. To C major. So the augmented, it just wants to resolve, doesn't it? Yeah. So in this case, that one could resolve to C. Okay. Now if I was to play an augmented here, that would resolve to F. So augmented sound like this, or like this. There's many of them up and down the fretboard, but that's just two examples. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a quiz. I'm going to hide my ukulele, and what I want you to do is not tell me the actual sort of start point of the chord, as in say G dominant seventh. I just want you to tell me, is it a dominant seventh, or is it a minor, or is it a diminished? So it's the type of chord I'm looking for, not the actual specific chord. Okay, so here we go. I think there's 8 different choices you've got. So here we go with number 1. What type of chord am I playing? That was question 1. Question 2, what type of chord am I playing? That was question 2. Question 3. What type of chord am I playing? That was question 3. Question 4. What type of chord am I playing? Remember, that's our suspense chord. Remember what I said? What type of chord is that? That was number 4. So question number 5. What is this chord type? That was question number 5. Question number 6. This is the chord that, or chord type, that takes us into somewhere. It has to resolve. So that sounds like this. Or, yeah, okay. They're going to resolve into something. Do you remember when we were talking before? What type of chord is that? Number 7. This is one that's a little bit hard, and it's often found in jazz. That one might take a bit of work, but it's so different from the others, you might just be able to fathom it out, okay? And our final one is this one. So we have okay, so that was our final one. Okay, I think you need to lie down. So how did you do? Let's find out. So the answer to question number 1 was the major chord shape. Okay, that was an easy one to start with. Then we went to the second chord, which some refer to as the 7th, but we're going to call it the dominant 7th. And that sounds like this. Yeah, okay, that's our dominant 7th. Did you get that one right? Number 3. Minors. Sort of a sad sound. That was number 3. Answer to number 4. Has to be diminished, doesn't it? It's unique in its sound, and I always think of suspense whenever I hear it. It's just a wonderful chord. That was number 4. Number 5 was major 7th. Okay, so it's almost a major, but that's our major 7th. Number 6, this is the chord that takes you somewhere, and that of course is our augmented chord. So in that case it would take us to C, or if I play it here, the augmented takes me, in this particular case, to F. But we're not interested in whether it's C, F, G, B flat, E flat, doesn't matter. It's the type of chord that we're after. Next one along was the tricky one, which was the 9th chord, okay? And these will take a little bit of getting used to, but they sound like this. So they're kind of bluesy version of a dominant seventh, and I use them all the time in sort of jazz and stuff. Okay, so the final one, we're only left with one, aren't we? Which is the minor seventh. So instead of playing minors, we've got something with a little bit more meat on the bones. Get the idea? So how did you do? Hopefully you got above halfway, and some of you would have got every single one. Now, this is going to be an interesting exercise because we're going to be using this later on in our little workshop. So next I'm going to do something absolutely crazy, and that is I'm going to play a chord. I'm not going to show you on the video what it is. I just want you to listen to what it is. You will recognize the chord. Then what I want you to do is with the ukuleles to actually play that chord. So you've recognized it. You know if it's a major, it's a minor. I've got you to play it, yeah? And the chord also will have a name. It works. Let me prove it, okay? Let me start off with the first chord that you ever learnt, which was the C major, okay? So, let me play it. Now you've heard that so many times, I guarantee if I throw that in the middle somewhere, you would know straight away that was a C major. Now to make it easy, what I'm going to do is not just do a simple strum like that, even though you might get the C major. I'm going to also play the notes individually in the order that you would strum them. So for example, a C major would be. Now, I'm right, aren't I? You know that's a C major, even if you weren't watching what I was doing on the ukulele. Are you up for it? Right, quiz time. 8 questions. Going to hide my uke again. Here we go. So I've hidden my uke. I'm now going to play the chord. Have a listen. And the individual notes are. That was question 1. What type of chord and what is the actual chord? Question 2. And the strings individually. Question 3. That was question 3. Question 4. That was question 4. Was it a major? Was it a minor? Was it diminished? And what was the actual chord? Next one is question 5. That was question 5. Question 6. That was question 6. Question 7. that was question 7, and finally question 8. Fantastic. How do you think you did? Let's find out. So here we go. The answer to question 1 was G major. Question 2, the answer C7. Question 3, the answer C major. Question 4, the answer F major. Question 5, A7, or A dominant 7 is its full title. Question 6 was G7, or G dominant 7. Question 7, A minor. And finally, question 8 is E7th, or its full title, E dominant 7th. Now, hopefully you did well with that. I tried to pick chords that you would often play rather than going for some of the more complicated ones like the ninths, the augmenteds and the diminished. Okay. And the reason for that was the recall, that you will recognise the sound that it makes as you actually strum across the 4 strings. So what you've managed to do then, right from the beginning of this workshop, is you've managed to recognise the type of chord. So was I playing a major, minor, diminished, augmented, etc., etc. Now you've actually used your ear and you've listened to what I've played, and you've told me not only is it a major, a minor, or dominant 7th, but what the actual chord was I was playing, which is fabulous when you think about it. Now, I do this all the time without even realising I'm doing it, especially if I'm listening to another ukulele player. I can actually hear and visualise the shapes that they're playing to actually get to those particular chords. And you will too with practice. Now, I mentioned to you at the beginning, I've got 2 very good friends of mine. I'm delighted they could join me for this. And they don't have the gift of sight. Yet they managed to play all these chords and all the complicated ones as well. And they've shared their time with us today. So let me bring in Kerry and Alison. The reason I've invited you here today, and thank you both very much for joining in with this, a topic that's very close to my heart is playing the ukulele by ear. Yeah. Now, for the majority of people, they have all senses, and they probably would be, I guess the word would be lost if they couldn't actually watch what they were doing. Now, you're both in a situation where you aren't in that sort of privileged position to be in. How do you manage to play in the ukuleles and play your ukuleles? I'm going to ask Kerry first, if that's all right.
It's all memory.
Okay.
It's all memory. We kind of sit down and hash out the chords, make sure that generally one of us will come with a song idea, and we'll teach it to the other one, and we'll just kind of hash it out together and go through chord sequences and kind of get the song phraseology, the kind of building blocks of the song in place into how many chords and verses, and just like that's we listen to it, we listen to the song, and we are as true to it as we can be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But let me back up the bus, if I may. You just said there you've gone way ahead, and you've said that we've got an arrangement. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Let's go back to actually physically putting on a chord. Say, for example, if Alison said to you, "It's a G7," how would you know to play a G7?
So for me, G7, I think, 2, 1, 2, which is open string for the G string, 2nd fret of the C string, 1st fret of the E string, 2nd fret of the A string.
Right, so it's the numbers nose to toes. That's how you remember it, sort of thing. Fantastic. That's really, really good. And Alison, is there anything you can add to that? How you find your way around the ukulele fretboard?
Sometimes I'll go, F major and A major. Oh, they're kind of the same, but you just put one finger on a different string, kind of similar position. So I work much more with how it feels under my hands rather than thinking of it in numbers terms.
Interesting. So Kerry, would you say also muscle memory plays a big part in it as well? That you played a G7 a million times. Would your hand just drop on it without thinking 0, 2, 1, 2? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
As well as having the muscle memory for, let's stick with the G7. Yeah, the G7 with its pattern of 0, 2, 1, 2 has a unique sound to it, completely different, say, from a C7. I mean, apart from, we know the pitch is different. I'm not getting into pitch, but the actual construction of that chord and the sound it makes, having that open string, then that next string down, the C string being on a D, and the next string down having a finger on. So any chord that's got a load of open strings is going to sound different than one open string and 3 with frets on, with fingers on the frets. Yeah. Okay. This is what I'm trying to explain to people in this tutorial, is the fact that chords have got a unique sound to the actual structure. And I'm pretty convinced that if you've been playing for 2 or 3 years, and I was to play a chord without you knowing what it was, and you could say, that's a C. Yeah. Right. So I'm going to play a chord. I'm going to not tell you what it is and just have a listen to it.
A7.
Absolutely, A7. Yeah. So we've got the ringing 4th string. We've got a fretted one on the next string, and then 2 opens. Okay.
Yeah.
So right, let's go to Kerry then. Right. So what should I do? Okay, let's try this one. This is for Kerry.
Oh, it's a C7, I think.
It is.
Well
absolutely
done.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Alison, back to you. Okay.
Okay. I know what chord it is.
Go on, what chord is it?
It's E minor.
It is.
It's for me, I see it as a kind of a diagonal shape.
Yes, that's it. That's absolutely what I've got here. Yeah. And that proves my point. Exactly. You've heard something, and from hearing it, you've got a shape from it, which is just incredible. And the point I'm trying to prove is that a lot of people say that they can't look at their audience. They need to concentrate on what they're playing with their left hand. They just cannot, move away from focusing on what the left hand is doing. And what you've both proved is that you can, through memory and experience as well, pick out what the chord shape is, and then in some cases, like Alison, who's had the training in music, you can actually find the pitch as well, which is just absolutely incredible doing that. Now, I'm just going to simplify this now. I'm going to play a series of chords from majors to minors to major sevenths to diminished, that sort of thing. And who wants to go first on that one?
I think it's Kerry's go.
Kerry's go. Right, Kerry. All right. So can you tell me if this is a major, a minor, a seventh, or a diminished? Okay, or a major seventh. Here we go. So first one is
major seventh.
Major seventh. Absolutely right. Okay. Now I'm going to play another one for you while I've got you. Here we go. So what would this be?
Diminished.
Diminished, absolutely. Right, Alison, your turn. So what is this I am playing here? What type of chord?
Dominant seventh.
Dominant seventh, absolutely right. Okay. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with these chords, but let me try this one.
minor 7 flat 5.
Yes, which is also a ninth. Absolutely.
Half diminished.
Yeah, that's it, half diminished. Yeah, superb. Wow, even I didn't know that. That's brilliant. Okay, back to Kerry. Okay, so what type of chord am I playing now?
Minor.
Minor. Okay, I'm going to play a little piece, and I'm going to start with this chord here. What chord am I playing? Either of you?
C.
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 Okay. Okay, so I'm going to play this little thing from Warsaw Concerto, and it starts like this. So that second chord, what type of chord is it, first of all?
Minor.
It's a minor. And do you know what minor it is?
E minor.
No, E minor.
E minor, yeah, okay. And the E minor shape, if you said it as a chord number, nose to toes, would be?
0, 4, 3, 2.
Absolutely it would. Yes, superb. Okay, so I don't need to go any further. It's just basically that, just proving by listening to what I was playing there. Not only could you tell what type of chord it was, major, minor, seventh, diminished, etc., etc., but you could also, with a little bit of thought and concentration, you could actually work out what shape I was playing and what the chord was, which is just, it's three things in one, which is incredible, isn't it, when you think about it? So I'm going to ask you both to answer this. Well, I'll ask you one at a time, but Kerry, if you were going to give somebody some advice who feels they are glued to watching their left hand, I mean, you've proved to it today that you don't need to, but what would your advice be to that person who says it can't be done?
I would probably say take a piece of music that has really simple chords in it and just learn to play that first. So, just to let it be, or something that's C, F, G, A minor, or,
Mm-hmm. So, Alison, what advice would you give to somebody to try and make them more confident without having to look at the uke?
They know how to make a C chord. Now, a lot of people kind of go, oh, you do your C, then you do your A minor, then you do your F, then you do your G. Mm-hmm. But actually, if you go, right, if you play all of the notes of the ukulele without putting your left hand on any of them, mm-hmm. you know what kind of sound that makes, and it's generally known as a C6 chord. Mm-hmm. If you find the bottom string and you just press on the very first fret there, it's mm-hmm. going to make a slightly different sound. That sound happens to be the C7 chord. Mm-hmm. I can go C major 7, I can go C. Then start to say, well, okay, if I do like a rocker action, so if we go from C to A minor, mm-hmm. so you say, right, okay, so you're just going to move one finger off, one finger on. So just getting them to make really, really small changes. Yeah. And just kind of getting that rocking motion from C to A minor, back to C to A minor, back to C. Mm-hmm. And actually, when you're on the A minor, if you want to get to an F chord, all you need to do is put one finger there, take it back off again, put it on again, take it off again. Put yourself in a nice, soft, very, very dim, dull situation that's really calming. So you mm-hmm. can't use your eyes. Just let your ears take over and have some fun with it. People just need to kind of give themselves a break and realize that their ears can actually give them so much information.
Thank you so much to both of you for participating in this today. It's been a really great help and very encouraging, I think, to those who have a sort of a fear of not being able to watch what they're doing. And you've just shown us perfectly that it can be done. And you're both finding it with different ways, which is very, very interesting. So thank you very much to you both.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
So to conclude, at the beginning, what we did, we looked at some common shapes that you would know, and I was putting them basically in a sequence and demonstrating that sometimes you've got what's called an anchor point, i.e. One finger will remain in place while you actually change to another chord. And I try, if I can, when I'm doing my arrangements, to actually have that in place. The reason why is because I need to look out to my audience. I don't have to look at my ukulele. It just doesn't look good. So for me to look confident in my audience, I need to have anchor points. I need to know the proximity of where those chords are. Now you should practice by looking out of the window and just playing a simple chord set such as C, C7, F, G7, C. And literally don't look at ukulele, just look out of the window. Yeah, so okay, if you can do it there, try it in G. So we got G, G7, C, D7, back to G. So. And before long, you'll get the confidence to trust your fingers with feel that the next chord is going to drop in just in the right place. Well, that's the plan anyway. After that, we looked at the chord types, majors, minors, augmented, diminished, etc. And then finally, we looked at developing your ear, as in recognition of a chord by sound, and converting that into a type of chord, then telling me what that specific chord was. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too in-depth. I hope it's been a bit of fun as well. My thanks very much to Alison and Kerry from Ukuleles, and I'll put a link to their Facebook page in the description so you can check them out. So until the next one, you all stay safe, take care. Love you all. Bye.